Good evening and welcome to the January 27th City Council meeting. Can we all stand to salute the flag?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Argenzio.
Here.
Here. Councilor Cogliandro.
Here.
Here. Councilor Janino.
Here.
Here. Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
Here.
Here. Councilor Haas.
Here.
Here. Councilor Jaramillo.
Here.
Here. Councilor Kelly is absent. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky is absent. Councilor Zambudo.
Here.
Here. And Council President Silvestri.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. Approval of the Journal of the regular meeting of January 13th.
Placed on file.
Calendar item number 3, the 2025 City Council Subcommittee assignments.
Placed on file.
Public hearings, calendar item number 4, hearing called as ordered on an ordinance further amending the noise control ordinance of the City of Revere.
This is a public hearing. Do we have any proponents? Any proponents? Any opponents? Oh, yeah. Closing that side of the hearing. On to opponents. Any opponents? Closing that side of the hearing. Any city councilors? Councilor Guarino-Sawaya.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Claire for all the work that she did on this motion that I had put in. I support the changes to prohibit the dumpster operation after 8 p.m. instead of 9, as well as the police department creating a protocol for dispatching calls related to the noise disturbances. Updating physical noise violation tickets is also a significant improvement that was made. As long as there are specific guidelines for each officer to follow, this will be successful, and I'm really, really happy with all the work that was done. However, I still have an issue with the animal control officer because he does not work on the weekends, and after 3 o'clock, it's really difficult to get a hold of him. So we need to put another type of protocol in there in order to have, if we have noise disturbances for animals and stuff like that, with an officer for the weekend for that. And a different solution needs to be implemented. The noise ordinance will enhance the quality of life by creating a more peaceful environment to the residents, and it'll set a clear expectation of what the actual noise level is going to be. We had problems with this all summer long. If the police can hear it from the street, then guess what? You can hear the noise, it needs to be shut down. So thank you so much to Claire for doing all the work that she did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. And this will be referred to Legislative Affairs on February 24th at 5 p.m.
Calendar item number 5, hearing called as ordered on an ordinance further amending fire safety regulations in the City of Revere.
Do we have any proponents? Name and address.
I'm sorry. James Cullen, Acting Fire Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. President, councilors, good evening. I'm just here to speak on behalf of this ordinance. I'm in favor of it. It was amended by the policy writer and the attorneys. Got together with the former chief and with the union, and it really doesn't change much. It's just some of the language is cleaned up from the previous, now under the Board of Fire Prevention Regulations, as opposed to the State Department of Public Safety in the past. And it also allows the city a little bit better on the collection of the fees for the details. So I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Chief. Any other proponents?
Kevin O'Hara, President of Revere Firefighters Local 926, 400 Broadway, Revere. I'm just rise here to speak in favor of this ordinance. We worked hard with the city, the mayor, the chief, and the union got together and we put this together. So all this is going to do is help better protect the citizens, the property, and the firefighters of Revere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara. Any other proponents? If there's no other proponents, we'll close that side. Any opponents? Any opponents? Hearing none, we'll close that side. Any city councilors? Okay, this will be referred to Legislative Affairs on February 24th.
Calendar item number 6, hearing called as ordered on the application of Joshua Recycling, Inc., 12 Furlong Drive, Revere, Mass., requesting a special permit from the Revere City Council so as to permit a contractor storage yard use within the TED District at 12 Furlong Drive.
We have any proponents? Applicant? Name and address, please.
Good evening, council members and council president. Hector Prieto, 114 Addison Street, Chelsea, Massachusetts. So the tenant, my client, Joshua Recycling, has been at the property 12 Furlong Drive since December 1st, 2018. He is applying to obtain his occupancy. It is a use that requires a special permit, so we're in front of the board for that matter.
And you're here in favor?
Correct, yeah. And
Okay.
to represent the applicant as well.
Do we have any other proponents? Name and address, please.
Tony Portillo, 57 Aurelia Silvia Drive. And I'm here in favor because I know Joshua for a long time. He's a good businessman. It's a small business right here in Revere, and he want to do the right thing. All he wants is a permit to start getting all the other permits. Because he can start doing all the other stuff that the city wants if he can get that occupancy permit. So.
Thank you, Mr. Patillo. Is there any other proponents? Proponents in favor? Closing that side. Any opponents? Opponents? Name and address, please.
Nicholas Rudolph, 577 Washington Avenue. So I am opposed to this at this time. The majority of the property is within the 200-foot buffer zone for this, and the only part excluding is the angled parking adjacent to Furlong Drive. We have been in a enforcement situation with this property, and at the current time, as of 2:30 p.m. today, that has not been resolved. So I think it would be irresponsible to extend a special permit to these people until such time as they are able to resolve their enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. So this will be going to zoning, so this might be an opportunity. Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah. So this is going to zoning, so there might be a time frame for them to catch up and clarify those. But any other opponents? Any other opponents? Closing that side. Any city councilors? Council McKenna?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is my ward. So in 2007, businesses on Furlong Drive were fined a hefty fine for its deplorable conditions. It still remains in deplorable conditions. 12 Furlong Drive abuts Sales Creek. The creek has been littered with oil, tires, and multiple items from the abutting properties. Many species of birds and ducks use this creek for their habitat. Site plan review has denied the special permit because of, in 2024, sorry, wrong era, in February, 12 Furlong Drive was cited for dumping piles of soil, containers, material, and chemicals in and along the creek. They were in violation of the Wetlands Preservation Act by dumping chemicals that could affect Sales Creek in a negative way. Also cited for illegal filling and altering of a resource area. In April, they cleaned the site. Now they're in front of us trying to get a permit. I am totally against them getting anything. With Blackstone Logistics in Suffolk Downs coming in with Lee's Trailer Park eventually, that site should be all cleaned up. All those businesses, all those deplorable businesses should be gone, and we should redevelop that site. So I am saying no, and I hope this council stands beside me. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Counselor Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the gentleman, the representative for that property owner, could you explain why you haven't complied with the recommendations of the Conservation Commission and to clean the property? And by the way, Nick didn't announce it, but he is the chairman of the Conservation Commission. I just want everyone to know that. Thank you.
Press the button on the bottom.
Thank you, council members. They did go to the Conservation Committee back in June. There is a letter attached with the findings for that time.
Why hasn't the property been cleaned?
Oh, to this moment, we are working with to have a storm water management system and the operations management system as well. So we're working with an engineer just to conclude to that matter. But for the moment, we're also just waiting to see what the decision will be.
I will not vote favorably for this until that property's cleaned.
That's
Thank you.
understandable.
Thank you.
Any other counselors? Counselor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make it clear that we want a lot more information at the zoning meeting whenever it is scheduled. So, progress report, if it's cleaned up and so forth and so on. Obviously, it's got no chance until it's cleaned up, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hamio.
If we could have Nick from the Conservation Commission.
Permission granted.
Rudolph? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just have a quick question. Can you just walk the council through what are the issues that are unresolved currently at the site?
So there are hazardous materials strewn about. There are dumpsters overflowing. There are still piles of soil that are adjacent. Their erosion controls aren't proper. There's quite a bit that needs to be resolved before I would even sign off on it if it came before me in the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Counselor McKenna.
Thank you. This property abuts Seals Creek, and I just want people to know that when he was talking about a 200-foot buffer, that's what he was talking about. It's a 200-foot buffer next to Seals Creek. And Seals Creek, I don't know if people know, but it's very, I'm sorry, I can't find the words, but it's very important for Seals Creek to run through Belle Isle. It comes from Chelsea, and when things are put in the creek, it stops. And for the ecosystem of Revere, this is very important. So it should be cleaned. It shouldn't be inhibited with tires and all kinds of dumping chemicals in it. I'm very passionate about this, and I just don't think anything should go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just shocked that this would be on here tonight and the area still hasn't been cleaned up. Like the other councilors said tonight, it's near Seals Creek. I would not have filed this unless that area was totally cleaned beforehand. So I suggest the area get cleaned up and then you come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, counselors. This will be referred to zoning. They kind of gave you the answers to the test, Thank you.
Calendar item number 7, hearing called as ordered on the application of Stephen Caruso, trustee of R&S Realty Trust, 320 Charger Street, Revere, Mass., requesting a special permit from the Revere City Council to reconstruct, alter, and extend the lawfully pre-existing non-conforming structures so as to construct a new commercial parking structure at the property located at Squire Rear Road, Revere, Mass.
Proponents.
Good afternoon, councilors. Attorney Jerry D'Ambrosio, 14 Proctor Avenue here in Revere. I represent the petitioner before you, R&R Realty Trust, better known as Steve Caruso, as well as his brother Ralph Caruso, as the owners of this property. I think many of you know that this parcel has been owned by the family for decades now, maybe 50 years or plus. I represent them in the special permit request before you tonight. There's in essence 2 special permit requests. One pertains to use. We're asking for a special permit to allow for the conversion of the site to be utilized as a park and fly garage. The second special permit is for the reconstruction of the current automobile repair shop and maybe more importantly, the contractor's yard that's currently being used there. I do have a number of people here tonight that are part of the team. I have Steve Caruso. Steve, I don't know where you are. Steve, right to my left. We also have the architect, Joe Tatone. Joe's here. We have civil engineer Rick Salvo. Rick, are you here? Rick is right here. And my associate, Nancy O'Neill. I understand that more often than not, we like brevity in these initial hearings, and questions will be asked at the subcommittee hearing. But by way of presentation, I would say that the current district is a TED district. I think the council is well familiar that it is the district that accommodates industrial use in the city of Revere. The lot size here is 2.6 acres, or 112,000 square feet. It's currently being used as an automotive repair shop in one of the 2 structures. The second structure is accompanying contractor's yard. It's safe to say that this is a large-scale, heavy industry use that employs up to 60 employees. It has been such for decades now. The proposed use is a modern 5-story state-of-the-art garage that will be utilized as a park and fly. I have some billboards here. This is a shot of the current use as it currently exists. Shot, another photo of the parking area as it currently exists. And we do have a photo or a rendition, if you will, of the proposed 5-story parking garage that we hope takes its place. For purposes of the record, I did submit a detailed memorandum with exhibits that was dated January 21st of 2025. It's part of your package. That memorandum explains all the legal reasons as to why this is a proposal that meets the legal requirements for this area. So I won't be getting into those specifics, but it has been submitted for your review and is part of the record. Again, it's a 5-story facility. It'll situate approximately 583 cars. Obviously, the size of it and the number of cars, it worries people right off the bat. People are concerned about traffic. It's important to note that we've met with Councilor Giannino. He asked for a traffic study. We commissioned that traffic study about 3 weeks ago. It's taken a few weeks to get the actual data. The company has actually sent data researchers into the area. They've looked at this site, they've looked at the Charger Street site, and they've looked at the Squire Road signals. They found some interesting data that I think this city council will be interested in seeing. The final report is not done yet, but I can report that the current project as proposed, it will actually reduce traffic congestion coming out of Charger Street. It would actually be a reduction compared to the heavy-duty truck use that is currently emanating from this spot. Again, that traffic study will be ready hopefully over the next 2 days, and it'll be submitted as a matter of public record once we have it in hand. But again, as far as the traffic, what I am telling the City Council, what will be borne out by this traffic study, is that the current use is a better use for traffic coming out of Charger Street. It will be less impactful and actually have fewer trips than what's currently going on there today. Another key aspect of this project is projected revenues. It's important to note that the current site generates about $90,000 a year in property taxes. The new building will generate $270,000 in property taxes. So it will triple the property tax amount from 90 to 270. Additionally, it will create another near $120,000 in licensing fees. The City of Revere requires a $200 per parking spot fee that is ongoing and due every year. So it will add roughly another $120,000 a year to the city's tax revenue. That's a total of just under $400,000 a year in taxes because of the new structure. So we're going to have a situation where we have less traffic, less impactful traffic. We're also going to have a situation where tax revenues are going to go from $90,000 to close to a minimum of $400,000 as a result of it. And finally, we have a family that has been in the city for a long time, well known, that is the developer of the project, and they will be available for neighbors, for councilors, and for other city individuals who have concerns or questions. So this is not an outside vendor. It is a homegrown vendor from the city. That is a quick summary. We have many more charts, many more data points to share. We'll save them for the subcommittee meeting. But again, I'm here for questions as well. Thank you.
Any other proponents? Proponents? Hearing none, we'll close that side. Opponents? Any opponents? Name and address for the council, please.
Good evening, Council President and councilors. I am Christine Robertson. I reside on Charger Street, on the residential side of Charger Street. I'm sorry I did not have a lot of time to prepare. I just found out about this on Saturday.
160.
I am here regarding the public notice for R&S Realty Company for the project proposed for the commercial end of Charger Street. I am sure that you are all familiar with this area, as there is a lot of truck traffic that frequents this establishment for the multiple businesses that are conducted there. We put up with trash trucks, not just on trash day, as well as multiple construction trucks coming down the residential side of Charger Street daily as they are headed towards that area. We also put up with a very, very loud banging noise every single night between midnight and 6 a.m. when the construction trucks hit the divot on Squire Road when they're taking the left turn from the traffic light on Squire Road. How much more can this area take as far as cars, trucks, congestions, emissions, and noise? Many years ago, when I was on the Conservation Commission, I walked this property. It is vast and very, very close to the marsh. I am hoping that this project will come before the Conservation Commission before any decision is made. You also have to understand that a building of that size will change the water table from the marsh to the residential side. We will get inundated with flood water. Thank you for listening, and I can sit and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Just to clarify, you said 116 Charger Street, your address? 187. Thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing and hearing none. Any city councilors? Councilor Greeno Swire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a great project. It's located in the TED district, and where the woman that spoke before us just said she lives on the opposite side of the highway. So the water table's not going to go on the other side of Charger Street. This is in the TED district, and This is where such a use is permitted with a special permit. And right now, it's being used as a commercial garage, construction, and contracting storage facility. This proposed project complements the character of the neighborhood, and it's replacing the outdated structure with new attractive parking facility, will modernize the site, and it'll clean up the property. Not only that, it'll eliminate the construction vehicles that are going back and forth and improve the conditions of the surrounding area without impeding its normal use. The project, I think, will enhance the accessibility and reduce parking congestion. So I think this is the perfect thing to build in that area. So I'm all for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Janino?
Yeah, I'm kind of in favor of this also, just for the mere fact that it's going to reduce the trucks in the area and on Chadron Square Road. And then we're going to work with the developers on this here, try to improve the parking lot and the car flow in and out of that lot also. There's no impact to the school system, no impact to the police department, and zero to the fire department. So I'm kind of on board with it.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Jaramillo.
For the proponents, if they're available, just had a question about potentially utilizing some of that top floor space for renewables to ensure, and potentially renewables we can buy and help offset and create some sort of municipal community solar, or just to have, they can sell it back to the city, we can get a discount for, at a cheaper rate, and we can pass that on to the taxpayer, to the ratepayer. Have you all considered anything like that? I know it's, what is it, 20, what's the square footage up there?
The decking is probably around 20,000 square feet, roughly. But yeah, Councilor, thank you for the question. Before I answer it, though, I did want to address one issue. The current operations will be removed. So the complaints about the trucking and the heavy trucking, that'll be gone. The construction yard will be eliminated from this site. It's also important to note that the site currently situates two
Counselor,
structures.
excuse me. If everyone could please silence their phones for the meeting, thank you.
So it's important to note that by removing all the trucks and the heavy equipment, the traffic flow study will show that there's less of an impact in the area. In fact, it'll be an improvement, okay? So I understand the complaints, but that's a good thing. This is actually making it better, not worse. In terms of the water table, this still needs to go to Conservation Committee. There are already two structures on the site that are going to be removed. So, we'll have engineers. They'll be working with Conservation Committee and the city engineer. We expect no impact on drainage for the area. But again, we'll be working through it with the proper experts. Council, with regard to your question about solar, it was an excellent question, and we've actually done some due diligence on it. And we've reached out to 3 different companies that are putting together some initial proposals for us. It'll take a little while. But I will say this, as a precursor, we do believe that the Revere zoning ordinance needs to address it. Currently, the Revere zoning ordinance has no provision for solar power energy. And so while it may be what we call in the profession a Dover protected use, the reality is that currently, if you look at the Revere zoning ordinance, it's a prohibited use because it's not listed. So while we're fine and we're looking into it, there'll need to be a step done ahead of time by the city planner's office, city hall, and the city council if there is indeed an intent to amend the zoning ordinance to include solar in the state. Because currently your ordinance does not reference it. But we are indeed willing to work with the city on that down the road when the time comes.
Thank you, Counsel. And when you looked at that ordinance, do you happen to have a citation handy? It's okay if you don't.
Well, it's your 17, I believe, your section 17. It's your currently the way your zoning ordinance is worded. Anything that is not listed as a use by either special permit or a right, it's considered a prohibited use. So solar panels are not listed as an allowed use, so they're automatically deemed prohibited.
I appreciate that. Thank
Thanks.
you. And it looks like maybe we have someone from right behind you that can help us answer this question too.
Hi, I'm not an attorney, but I play one on TV. So one
Thank you,
thing to
Counselor.
consider, and I was mentioned there, is it is sort of a protected use under 40A, Section 3. No zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. So I actually think this might be one of those instances where if we don't include it in our ordinance, the assumption is that that's an unreasonable prohibition of solar installation. So I actually think this would be considered.
Thank you, Tom. Counselor?
So as a side matter, it's great that the issues come up, because I agree with that. You probably want to have some reflection on this topic and amend your local ordinance to allow it where you'd like, because the way it's currently omitted, it would allow someone to come in under a Dover Act permit and place it anywhere in the city, and you may not like where it gets placed. I tend to tell my communities that all the time with some of this stuff. But it is an issue, and I think the issue is well described. So it's, as an ancillary matter, it's, I think the council should deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Okay, this will be going in zoning on February 3rd at 5 p.m.
Calendar item number 8, hearing called as ordered on a petition submitted by National Grid to install one pole on Wilson Street beginning at a point approximately 129 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Wilson Street and Revere Beach Parkway, and continuing approximately 30 feet in a southeast direction. National Grid to install stub pole 65-1 in order to install a pole-to-pole guide wire between pole number 65-1 and pole number 659-0 to prevent pole 659-0 from leaning. A sidewalk guide will also be installed on stub pole 659-1 to balance the tensile forces on both poles on Wilson Street in accordance with the plan on file.
Any proponents?
Petra Jeka, 170 Medford Street in Malden, representing National Grid. So National Grid is petitioning the installation of a stub pole numbered 659-1, which would be used to have a pole-to-pole guy wire in order to balance the pole 659, which is currently leaning. National Grid is also petitioning for a sidewalk guy wire in order to balance the stub pole, so that it also doesn't lean after that.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any proponents? Closing that side. Any opponents?
One letter on file from a Mr. Steve Capano, who's a direct abutter to the proposed pole location.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Closing that side. City councilors. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is my ward. I'm totally against what National Grid wants to do. It's a crooked pole. What they should do is come in and just change the pole. But because they're putting a Band-Aid on this. Because it's so hard for them to remove the companies that are on it. So say there's 5 companies, there's National Grid, there's Comcast, there's Verizon, there's the police, fire department. So it takes a lot of work, so they want to put a Band-Aid on this.
No. The pole 659 is also being replaced.
Well, you know what, so this is what I say. You want to take another pole and you want to put it across the street with a guide wire to hold the pole. Why don't you just take the pole, a new pole, and put it up, instead of putting another pole across the street, just put it up, change the companies, and call it a day.
No, that is actually happening. So pole 659 is also being replaced. But because there is a lot of poles that are in the backyard, on the backyards of a lot of houses, the tension on those lines is causing the pole to lean. So in order to balance that pole, the new pole that is going to be put there, they're also proposing the stub pole across the street. So it's basically they are replacing that pole, and then they're also putting a stub pole in order to balance so that it doesn't lean again.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with it. I just think that you should fix the pole. And I understand there's poles in the backyard. I didn't see a pole in the backyard, to tell you the truth. I didn't see any poles in the
there are
backyard. I went down there, the woman called me, she was just concerned about the leaning pole that's on the street, sidewalk.
Yes,
So-
that one is leaning because of the other poles that are there. Because
Well-
we have primary that is actually going to feed other houses, because they are not being fed from the other streets that are nearby.
So what you're saying is you want to put 2 new poles in?
Yes, but one of them is
One
already
across the
existing.
street with the
so
guide wire.
One of them is already existing, so it's being replaced, and then the other one is just being installed.
I just
And-
think you should replace the crooked pole and call it a day. Thank you.
Counselor, I believe that's what he's saying. And I think what he's saying is if they do replace the 1-for-1, it has the potential of leaning again, so they want to put the other one up for a guide. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, dealing with National Grid, they just put Band-Aids on it. And we've been dealing with this I've been dealing with it for 10 years now. I know there are new councilors that are still dealing with it again. I just think that they need to come back to the drawing table and find a different solution instead of putting 2 poles in. We're trying to get rid of the poles. So I think they should go back to the drawing table and figure out what they want to do and then come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Counselor Hess?
Thank you, Mr. President. I totally agree with Councilor McKenna. I've spoken to a resident there who was kind of like the spokesperson for the neighborhood, totally against it. He said the pole's been there for 60 years. That was told to him from someone that worked for National Grid. Now, I understand you're going to replace the current pole, and then you're also going to add a stub pole
Yes,
and, and a sidewalk.
Yeah, sidewalk guide wire, yes.
So that's 3 things, or?
It is kind of required in order for the stub pole to also not lean. It needs to be on the ground, basically.
So you're replacing the current pole with 2 poles?
No. The current pole is being replaced by 1 pole, and it needs a stub pole in order to install the guide wire to that pole. And because with the poles being replaced, in order to combat the tension on one side, we have a guide wire on this side, but because it's right on the street, the only option would be to put the stub pole on that side of the street and then put the sidewalk as well.
Okay. So on Malden Street recently, I saw that a leaning pole was repaired to some extent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anything else was put up. I didn't see anyone I could talk to there. I just saw that it wasn't leaning as much. I'd be curious to see if they used a certain strategy there. I would love to see them just replace the pole. I was told the pole leans after 60, 65 years.
Yeah.
Instead of having the residents to deal with more structures, then we run into an issue where we're putting poles all over the city.
Yep.
We're already inundated with poles everywhere. We don't even know what's going on with them. But
Understood.
I would love to see you guys come back with something that just says you replace the pole.
Okay.
Thank
That
you.
works.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Cogliandro?
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry you're taking some heat tonight. I know, well, when he shows up, you know what I mean? It's usually every other meeting. So I agree. I think you should go back to the drawing board, try to do this with 1 pole, because to get you guys to fix something on a sidewalk or pave a road or something, it's very difficult. It's gotten to the point where we've had to have the threat of revoking licenses or permits for you guys to get you to do things. So you can understand why we're so hesitant on something like this. You want to dig up the other side now. So right now, it's a no for me if we're voting on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So if it's the will of the council, we can vote this out tonight, or we can put it in public safety, and they can come back with a plan. If it's the will of the council, Madam, can you roll call the vote?
Shall the city council grant the relief requested to install the new poles in accordance with the plan on file? Counselor Argenzio?
No.
No. Counselor Cogliandro?
No.
No. Counselor Janino?
No.
No. Counselor Guarino Sawaya?
No.
No. Counselor Hass?
No.
No. Counselor Jaramillo?
No.
No. Counselor Kelly is absent. Counselor McKenna?
No.
No. Counselor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Counselor Zambudo?
No.
No. And Council President Silvestri?
No.
No. The petition by National Grid for Wilson Street has been denied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rule 34, public comment pursuant to Chapter 402 of the Acts of 1965.
Okay, in this section, anyone that's coming up to speak, please give your name, your address, what motion you'll be speaking on. Each member will get 2 minutes, and we'll begin now. Please come to the podium. Name and address and the matter you'll be speaking on, sir.
My name is Anthony Cantino, and I live at 240 Suffolk Avenue, Revere, Mass. I see that the city council takes up a number of issues, all sorts of issues, but they can't seem to take up my issue regarding my state peddler hawker's license, which is being
Mr. Cantino,
denied by
please
the
step
chief
down.
of police of Revere, Massachusetts.
We discuss this every week.
Well, you're going to discuss it every week.
Okay,
Until he answers,
thank you.
until he answers my request for a peddler hawker's license in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Next, name and address for the council, please.
Ryan Rose, 172 Kimball. I'm here tonight in support of the HPP. Of course, I made my heartfelt plea to advance the HPP back in December and don't need to repeat it. I could highlight the wisdom of specific ideas within the report, but I wanted to emphasize 2 quick overarching points instead. One is that I understand that the Next Stop Revere report was criticized for a lack of community input. However, this was rectified and then some in the HPP. And in the midst of a crisis, it would not be advantageous to kick the can down the road again when we have proven solutions at our disposal. Lastly, I was telling Ira about my current experience with an unethical landlord. And when I told Kerry Schuman the story, he couldn't believe it and insisted I tell the council. But you know what? My specifics don't matter. What matters is the direct link between our unhealthy housing market and this scarcity emboldening bad actors like my landlord. Right now, a landlord like mine can act with impunity because where else are you going to go that's affordable? But if we act deliberately and follow many of the report's recommendations, or at least some of them, the balance of power can shift to where people like me and thousands of others like me aren't as vulnerable. I know it's not being voted on tonight, but please advance the HPP so we can improve a status quo that we all agree is untenable. Thank you for your continued service to our community and for tackling this extremely important issue.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is April Tate, and I live at 115 Oak Island Street in Revere, and I am also here to support the RHH plan. I have lived in Revere for about 3.5 years and was very lucky with my timing and being able to purchase a home during COVID, when interest rates were low, and there were small down payments that were acceptable, which I think a lot of us know is no longer the case for both things. I do ask that the city councilor supports this plan for 4 main reasons. One is for us to be able to keep housing affordable for those who are currently living here. More than half of the folks in our city are renters, and being able to support renters to be able to stay within our city is really important, not only for our economy, but also for our community of those folks that are currently living here. I know that I personally would not be able to afford being able to buy a house right now in Revere. What I pay monthly for my 3-bedroom is what a 1-bedroom rent is right now, and that's including taxes and mortgage and all the insurance and those things. And that's for a median 1-bedroom. So that is the middle 1-bedroom, not even the full 1-bedroom. As somebody who has a family and a daughter and pets, and I wouldn't probably be able to afford to rent right now in Revere, not to mention own a home. Constructing and rehabbing buildings and affordable housing in Revere would create job opportunities, especially with some of the leniency in terms of expectation requirements. As folks know, there's been a lot of projects that have been delayed due to just the pure cost of being able to build right now. Things that are listed within the plan would allow us to be able to build affordable housing in the city, which could create local jobs or at the very least have additional folks spending money within the city that are being employed on those projects. Third is lacking affordable housing creates situations like homelessness and displacement. As somebody who works with folks experiencing homelessness in the greater Boston community, I have directly seen how only having a little bit of affordable housing can then lead to people really having to fight for stability in their lives, not only for their housing, but for job and financial empowerment. So not only is this bad for the individual folks that are experiencing it, but it is also bad for taxpayers, as additional taxpayer money is needed to support individuals to become rehoused. And finally, affordable housing creates a better community for everyone. When a household isn't burdened by having to be cost burdened with their housing, that disposable income can go towards long-term goals or to be spending money in our local community. Affordable housing also has a direct impact on better health, education, and financial stability. And I know that's what I want for our community, and I hope that you all do as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else coming up to speak under Rule 34? Okay, that closes that. Yeah, because they're city employees and union members, and it rolls under. The city employees. I clarified that with her because under the rule, they wouldn't be allowed to speak because they're not residents.
But they're city employees.
Yeah.
That's up to the council to decide.
Yeah.
But city employees don't fall under general, they're not general public, they're city employees. That's how I interpret it, but it's up to the city council to decide.
They're going to speak after, yes. Yes.
Rule 23, the following motions or communications are reported out of committee with a recommendation to be placed on file. Calendar item number 9, Council Order 24-305, an ordinance further amending food truck locations for the Revere Historical Commission parking lot.
Councilor Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've actually had a conversation with the chair, the new chair of this, where this committee has been, where this has been in committee, and I've had some conversations with some folks from the Historical Society, which of course do operate quite a bit around the parking lot there. So I would like it if we can send it back to EcoDev for now while we wrap up some communications. I know I want to have some follow-up conversations with the ward counselor, the chair, and I know that there's some folks here who actually were the ones who presented the motion and would like to weigh in as well at some point. So for now, if we could just send it right back to EcoDev and we can have a more robust conversation then, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. So when this came up, I am not against food trucks. It's just the placement of food trucks. And if they're gonna, one of the locations suggested was Revere Historical Commission during the times that the kids are playing in the, it was like 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And those kids use Sonny Myers Park all the time, and they're outside. And the fumes from the truck could hurt the health of these kids. So I'm totally against the placement of it. I'm not against food trucks. I just think that we need to find a better place for them to park in and do their, sell their product. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Jaramillo.
Sorry, I really appreciate the councilor's interjection in this matter. And I know that this is her ward, and I want to be respectful with her, which is why I'd love to have this conversation in committee. But given that my kid actually plays at Sonny Myers Park, and I frequent the area, I would just like to note that there are plenty of places where we can plug in some of these cars that can pay back the electricity to the city et cetera. But again, a discussion, I think, better fit for either the legislative subcommittee or the economic development subcommittee. And I really do appreciate the councilor's concern.
Thank you, Counselor. As the maker of the motion, you can either remain this in committee or place on file.
Committee would be great, Mr. President.
So will remain in committee. I'd like to suspend the rules and bring up communication number.
We're going to vote on suspending the rules.
Yes. I wanted to find where I wanted to skip to. Sorry about that, Counselor.
A motion to suspend the rules.
Yeah. I'd like to bring up a motion to suspend the rules. Yeah. Yeah. All in favor, all opposed to suspend the rules? And if we could bring up Council Communication number 21?
Calendar item number 21, communication from the mayor requesting approval of an act relative to the appointment of the chief of police of the city of Revere.
Somehow Mr. Cantino finds this funny. Well, good evening, Honorable Council. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Catano, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Honorable Council. You've seen the communication, and I don't think that it requires a lot of understanding, but what I do want to do is give you a little bit of the backstory as to the rationale. And as always, in everything that I do and everything that we try to do, we want to do it with the utmost respect and ensuring that we are professionalizing and bringing on nothing but the very best to our city. That doesn't change when it comes to one of the most important departments in our community. As you can see right behind me, we have about 107 fine men and women that represent our community in a public safety standpoint. We want to have the best chief of police to represent that body as we continue to grow as a city and as we continue to evolve. I want to make sure that that process is professional, is rigorous, and is extremely competitive. That's why I'm asking for this special act change. This doesn't mean that we would go outside of the department just because of it. We would continue to have a vigorous internal candidate process and allow external candidates to apply. As we all know, if you want to be the best, you must beat the best. And when you work in a competitive setting, the person that is competing against you is going to bring you up another level. So this process will strengthen our internal candidates. This process will expand to more internal candidates, and this process will bring, if and when we do need a new police chief, the very best to our department that the city deserves, the police department deserves, and our entire council and body deserves. So I hope that you would support me in this, and I certainly don't expect this decision to be made in a bubble. I'll be available. I've already offered myself available to the entire body, both unions, representative the patrol union and superior officers, and of course each counselor wishing to speak or ask me any questions, I'd be happy to in legislative affairs. And lastly, I do want to remind the entire council, no matter what we do for an appointment from the mayor's office, the council still needs to approve the appointment. So again, there'll be no nefarious intentions. As a matter of fact, I never bring this up when I'm in front of the council or city business. I've talked about politicizing the police department when I was becoming elected. And I said that that's one of the most frustrating parts I've witnessed as a resident of the city. For over 21 years, I've witnessed our police department continue to be polarized from political candidates. As a matter of fact, I believe that most of them have been used by political candidates. And I'm trying to end that. I'm trying to create a much more truthful process, rigorous, to again, bring the most qualified candidate to represent all of us and this honorable body of policemen and women. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Anyone else wanted to speak on the communication, please come forward. Name and record.
Good evening. My name is Sergeant Dennis Hickey, Revere Police Department.
I am the Vice President of the Revere Police Superior Officers Association. To my right is President Joe Antonicola, also a sergeant. To my left is Lieutenant Zagarella, who is the treasurer, and we are here in opposition on the record to the mayor's proposal to repeal Section 3 of Chapter 102. We're going to make it short. What we really kind of want to get forth to you folks is that we believe that the mayor truly has our best interests in mind. We fully understand that. We just don't agree that this is the right decision to make. As it sits right now, we have 33 members of our superior officers union who comprise a body of more than eligible candidates. Together, I mean, if you aggregate some of their experience, we're talking hundreds of years, not just in policing, but policing the city of Revere. And I think that that's a metric that really is invaluable to choosing the chief of the city of Revere. We come forth and just want to open it up to any questions you may have, but just understand that this sort of was sprung on us last week. We didn't have too much time to digest a lot of the information. We'd like to give you well-informed answers, but that might not happen at this point. So, yep.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Just to add to that, Joe Antonicola again, Revere Police, for 20 years. We checked our personal feelings at the door. We're here representing the men and women of the Revere Police Department, especially the Superior Officers Union, and we just believe that this will, although I think noble cause, I think just that it would adversely affect the members of our police department, and especially members of our union that have dedicated upwards of, we have a member upwards of 35 years on the job, waiting for maybe their chance. And so if it wasn't for that reason, and again, we just caught wind of this, so we haven't even had an opportunity to have a meeting to really discuss this with each and every member, but I think the show of force in the back of the room suggests that we're all pretty much on the same page and believing that the adverse effect it would have, and unintentionally, of course, but we just want you to consider that.
Thank you. Anything else? Any councilors want to weigh in? Councilor Janino?
Thank you. We co into this here last Wednesday also. I think it's a good idea, but I think the timing is wrong on it. I think being at the end of a chief's contract, basically, and decided to renew it or not, and all of a sudden change the rules mid-game. We have officers that have been studying for tests for the last year and a half, 2 years, hoping to get promoted with a changeover coming, and now they're whacked with, well, we make an outsider in here. I think the timing is wrong on it. I'd like to talk to the patrolman about it, talk to the superior officer about it, and at a later date discuss it, not right now.
Counselor, and
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Counselor.
I know that the hopes is that this would go to one of your committees to further discuss, but just to remind you, and there's not a test to be the police chief in the city of Revere currently, but there would be more of the body, the superior officer body, more than likely the entire panel would be eligible to become a police chief, so that would actually expand the opportunities for the current department. But again, I know that this could go back and forth, and we can certainly discuss more. And the last piece, when you said the timing, you're 100% right. It's difficult to prioritize everything you want to do. More so, our department and the city really thinks that it's about being a little bit more proactive in the approach on this so that we can be ready for a succession planning when that time comes. That may not come for some time. That could come, we have a current police chief that's under contract, and I don't want to discount that. He's a very fine man, and he is under contract. He may renew his contract. He may decide that he doesn't want to do this anymore. He may get picked up by another department because most cities and towns take people from other cities. So you never know. He might go to a fellow neighboring community to be the next police chief, or he may just stay here and sign another new contract. But we want to have it at the ready if and when we do need that. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Looking at Chapter 102, we're trying to remove Section 3 in its entirety. So I am not in agreement with removing the necessity to be a Revere police officer. I've born and raised in this city. I went to school with some of these guys. Chief Callahan was my resource officer. When I see him, I get a sense of comfort that, yes, this man has been here up through the ranks, and I know who he is, he knows the city. The thought of having somebody come from outside of the city to run our city makes me uncomfortable. And I also, when police, some of them are happy just staying in patrol, but some of them want to rank up, and it's going to make that harder to do that if we don't internalize this and build the ranks up from within. I also think that that might be bad for morale, and I've been told that this could potentially mean that people are going to leave the department because there's no room for growth. I am okay with removing the rank requirement and opening that up a little bit. We have sergeants that have been on for a very long time that could be considered, and so I can't support it the way it sits. I'm hoping we can discuss modifying that. I get the best of the best approach, and I respect you, Mr. Mayor, you know that. I just disagree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Green Oswaya.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, I have the utmost respect for you, but I respectfully disagree with you on this one. An internal candidate is already familiar with the department's culture, its operation, and its challenges, which allows them to step into the role without the need for extensive training. You're taking somebody from outside the city. We need to teach them about the city of Revere. For example, police officers in Revere know their city. They know the residents, and they know the individual needs of each section of the city of Revere. By taking somebody from outside, they're going to have to learn all this. And it's going to take a longer process. A police chief from within will often have established trust and rapport with the officers, the staff, and the community, fostering unity and a high morale. Additionally, an internal hire understands the unique needs and dynamics of the city and the sections of each city, of the city that they serve. So what they would need in Beachmont would be different than what they would need in Riverside. But these officers have been here, they've worked here, they've established what each part of the city needs. So it's really, I think, an important factor to keep it within the city of Revere and with these officers that have given up so much of their time already. Promoting from within can also motivate other officers by demonstrating a clear pathway for career advancement. And by taking it away from them and going to other cities looking for a new chief, why would they want to stay in Revere? When there's no room to become sergeant, no room to become chief, no room to become lieutenant. You know what I'm saying? To me, I think it's really important for us to keep it within the city and respect the officers that do serve us. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor, and thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the Counselor. I don't disagree with you. I think it would certainly be harder to bring an outsider in. It's more of just having the option to. And this could be, again, if there was, in case of emergency break glass moment, unfortunate scandal or corruption, and I'm not suggesting there's any of that. You don't want to have to be reactive at that point in time to have this. Again, it does bring the awareness of competitiveness to be able to see outside of your four walls and what else is going on out there. And I do want to remind you, there are over 33 superior officers. There is plenty of upward mobility for the current force. As a matter of fact, the percentage of superior officers in Revere is greater than all of our surrounding communities. It goes to show you that we invest in our superior officers, and we will continue to do that. We will not lose a superior officer position in the union. That will stay. The police chief is not a union position. Again, I just want to remind you, more than likely, and this has been my track record, this has been our track record, we are hiring the best candidate. More often, it is an internal candidate. We just did that with the DPW superintendent. After a rigorous process of interviewing many outside candidates that may have even had more experience, but we felt that the experience internally and the growth potential that we had with the internal candidate outweighed that. We'll continue to do that with any police chief candidate. More often than not, someone in our system right now will have a lot more institutional knowledge with Revere and a lot more camaraderie and understanding of the troops. So it would be an easier transition for all of us. And I would be willing to say that a high percentage of the time, certainly I don't plan on doing this very often. I hope to not do it at all, but it would be more than likely an internal candidate. And I just want to reiterate, this is only to have the opportunity to interview outside if we needed to. There would always be a preference for an internal candidate. I will assure you that, and we will make sure that that's spelled out in the interview and selection process.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree if you exhaust the interviews with all the candidates in Revere Police Department, then, yeah, maybe we should look outside. But I can think of most of these guys, kids, I had in school. You know, they've grown up in Revere. And I believe there are candidates in this department that qualify to be the chief of police. And I do believe, Sergeant said when he came up here, he said, you know, born and raised in Revere, better to be in Revere. You know the city, you know the people. And I'll probably get some heat for this, but I know that I was a better teacher coming from Revere, knowing Revere, growing up in Revere, knowing the kids, than a teacher from Newburyport. So I just think these guys have worked years and years and years, and they know the system, they know the people. You know, I've seen officers go up to a guy and say, "Hey, Lou, what's up? What are you doing here?" And I'm like, and, you know, you need to get off the corner. And I'll be like, "Wow, you know him?" "Oh, yeah, we deal with them all the time." You know, an outsider would say, "Okay, you, get off the corner." But Lou got off the corner because the officer knew Lou. So, and there was no hassles or anything. So I just think that if you exhaust the interviews, then it's fair to look outside. But I think there are many qualified police officers in this city that deserve to be chief. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. President, through you to the counselor, I don't disagree with you there. And again, I'm friends with some of these men and women. And as we said, leaving the emotions at the door, I cook with them. I care very much, very deeply about all of them. That's why I want nothing but the very best to represent them as a chief. They're asked to go out and do tasks that none of us would do. And so I respect that. And yes, if there was a fair compromise that we could come up with by repealing this act and adding in the language that after all exhaustive measures are made.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Cantino, if you can't stand there like a man and not make comments and play the violin, you're going to have to leave, please.
You know why I'm playing the violin?
I don't care why you're playing the violin. It's not time to play the violin. I'm asking you to please step outside. Thank you.
The Zuba. Not the violin, you blow the Zuba.
Okay, please sit down or leave the chambers. Thank you.
Since the rules are suspended, I have the right to speak, don't I?
Not right now.
Mr. President, and again, Mr. Council McKenna, if that was a stipulation after any internal candidates were exhausted because they didn't meet a certain criteria, I think that would be a nice add-on. But again, it would be the requirement of repealing this act, and we can work on a criteria together. And that's the hopes, is I'm not looking to push this through tonight. I would like to have more dialogue in whatever committee, most likely, I would imagine, legislative affairs or whatever the president decides to do. And we can have good deliberation together. The union have brought up strong points when it said they haven't had a lot of time to digest this. As you know, we put motions forward and then they get put up in 3-4 days by the time the packet comes out. But that's the hopes, is we have honest, open discussion on what's in the best interest of our city and our police department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here. I always appreciate thinking outside the box, as you know, from my creative ways. This, however, I'm not sure if I can support, looking outside the city to bring someone in to lead the Revere Police Department. You know, I've had so many great relationships with Revere chiefs over the years. Many of the Revere officers I call friends. I play basketball with. Our kids play t-ball together, you know, things like that. once you bring an outsider in from another department, you're already playing catch-up in my eyes. You'll have to show them the areas, the locations, all the community members, all the community leaders. So you're already behind the 8 ball in a sense. That it's a tough one, but I think this should stay within the department. I'm sure that from what I've heard, there are a few qualified individuals, but I think this should stay in-house. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Permission to speak from the chair? Thank you. This is a tough one, and at first glance, I was in favor. In recent history, I believe the body president of the union was also in favor of going outside of the city. I believe that at times it's something that has been supported by the body. Obviously, here tonight, it's against. But being an active duty military member, I think we're taking a huge disservice out of, I know you're all here against this, but I gotta be honest. Everyone here tonight is basically saying none of you men and women could go into another city and police. And I believe that is false. I don't think you would be behind the 8 ball. I don't think you wouldn't be able to do your job. And that's my professional opinion as yous as professional police officers. So that's why that part I kind of am like, eh. I understand wanting to keep it within, but saying that you all couldn't go to another department and be successful, I don't think that's right. So I think we heard a lot of, at least over the weekend, heard a lot of supports, even within the department, for pieces of this, and a lot against parts of it. I believe that we should talk more about it. I believe the department should have more time to digest it, sit with the mayor, take the pieces that they appreciate, take the pieces that they like, and move it forward if they agree to so. If it's the will of the body, we can roll call it.
Mr. President, I think this should go into committee.
I agree. I think it gives both parties the opportunity to sit and come to an agreement, or whether or not. So,
Mr. President? Mr. President?
yes.
I didn't have a chance to speak. I just have a
Oh, I apologize.
No, it was my fault. I just have a procedural question. If this were to pass and it went, opened up to other candidates from outside the city, right now I know it's limited to captains and lieutenants that have been there for 5 years, if I'm speaking correctly. Now, does that open, if we do pass it, does that open up to everyone, even non-police officers?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the counselor. So this is repealing the act, which currently restricts it to captains or lieutenants with 5 years' experience. So a lieutenant with 4 years' experience or a sergeant with 20 years' experience would not be eligible. But we would then ask, and this would be the assurance, is to establish a new criteria based on, yes, there would need to be some supervisory experience. I think that in what that dictates and how that goes would be up for debate. We would have some dialogue. And again, utilizing areas like assessment centers and making sure that we have a thorough interview process. But again, this is not to make a decision in a bubble. So that's why I think that it would be nice to get your reassurances in legislative affairs. I did have some more materials to provide to you. If you would like, we can send to the council, and you can continue to digest it. And also, Attorney Capizzi sent over a legal memo just kind of documenting the facts on this. But it definitely expands the candidate pool. But sure, do you think that a one-year patrol person would be eligible to be chief? I don't know if that I would discount them that much, but I don't think that they may be ready for the task. We would want to have a proper protocol in place. Again, like many cities and towns around us, I can't think of one around us that doesn't have that option. Very rarely, as we all know, because I think the preference would always be to stay internally, is that the case. But the same thing goes for, bringing on a new officer. The old days of they were always here is sort of changing. As we know, it's been more difficult to find public safety people. So you have to try to make sure you're amending to the change of what's going on in the environment. And that's all I'm asking for you to do tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, yes, Council Cogliano.
Thank you for the leeway, Mr. President. Through you to Mayor Keefe, in regards to creating criteria for the position, because that part I'm in favor of. Would this be something that would be an ordinance for the city?
So that would be a special, it would be, well, the repeal of the special act would just be changing that special act for the time being. Sections 1 and 2 would still stay, but
Right.
Section 3 would be, I'm asking for it to be stricken. But if the, would be an amendment to the act, we could certainly work on something like that. Paul, I don't know if you wanted to.
I just want to say that right now in front of you, or what's being proposed, is the repeal of the existing special act. That's it.
Excuse me, don't you
That-
take people in line, or you just pick they just jump in?
Mr. Cantino, I already said you're not going to speak on this matter, please.
Well, there's suspension of rules. I mean, those guys, those you.
Please
take
sit
them
down,
in
Mr.
order or
Cantino.
whatever. I
Please
mean,
sit
they just
down.
pop out of the sky in front of me.
Please ask him to leave.
Okay. See, we can,
Thrown out by the carpet.
I just, if I could just clarify, I wasn't asking about modifying this. I just want clarification on creating these guidelines. Are we going to then bring this back to modify the home rule petition again with new guidelines? Or are we going to keep that in-house?
the home rule petition, just so everybody's clear, and I try to say this in my memo, it's a state law that's created specifically for this purpose. It is not necessary to manage or staff or make up compositions by home rule petition only. We can certainly do it by ordinance or by policy. So I just wanted to make that clear. Yeah, we already have a staffing ordinance, we already have a police department composition ordinance on the books now. This was done separate and apart. My guess is so that nobody could then make any amendments to it without going through a more lengthy process to amend the special act, which, by the way, doesn't happen overnight. Usually it happens, if you're lucky, once a year if you can get it.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Okay, we're going to send this to Legislative Affairs. Okay. To take up the substitute motion that Councilor Zambudo put on the floor to send this to Legislative Affairs, Madam, can we have a roll call?
I thought it might be Legislative Affairs and Public Safety, but that's up to you.
Legislative Affairs. Thank you.
Shall the city council refer this matter to Legislative Affairs? Counselor Agenzio?
No.
No. Counselor Cogliandro?
No.
No. Counselor Janino?
No.
No. Counselor Guarino Sawaya?
No.
No. Counselor Haas?
No.
No. Counselor Jaramillo?
No.
No. Counselor Kelly is absent. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes?
Yes. And Council President Silvestri?
Yes.
Yes, the motion to refer to this matter to Legislative Affairs fails. The original motion is now on the floor for a roll call on the matter.
Roll call on the matter, please.
Shall the city council approve and act relative to the appointment of the chief of police of the city of Revere? Counselor Agenzio?
No.
No. Counselor Cogliandro?
No.
No. Counselor Janino?
No.
No. Counselor Guarino Sawaya?
No.
No. Counselor Haas?
No.
No. Counselor Jaramillo?
No.
No. Counselor Kelly is absent. Counselor McKenna?
No.
No. Counselor Novoselsky?
Present.
Voting present. Counselor Zambudo?
No.
Voting no. And Council President Silvestri?
No.
No, the special act fails.
Now back to the order of business. Okay. We're going to take a brief 2 minutes. Back to the regular order of business.
Mr. President, motion to suspend the rules? Can we take up item number 24 as, it's just an appointment, as the woman is 39 and a half weeks pregnant? Please.
I'm only okay with that if she's actually 40 weeks pregnant.
39 and a half, 40, 40, 41. Let's on the suspension of rules to bring up the appointment of Dora Hallett to the Conservation Committee. 24.
Calendar item number 24, motion presented by Councilor McKenna that the City Council pull from the Appointments Subcommittee the appointment of Dora Hallett O'Donoghue to the Conservation Commission and move to confirm.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dora, you're going to look at me. I'm the chairman. I just want to know what you're going to bring to the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, of course. So do I need to say where I live or anything before? No?
You just you
Okay,
have to say your name and your address.
Okay. So Dora Hallett, 261 Rice Avenue, Revere. So I've worked in energy and infrastructure for about 12 years at this stage.
Okay.
So I bring a long history basically of how things are actually constructed from the ground up and how you actually even go about getting the permits and the environmental side of everything. I've seen projects through from greenfield where you're talking about renewables the entire way through to actually when they're operational. So I feel like I bring a great strength of knowledge from that aspect. I've worked throughout the US, I've worked in other countries as well, so it's also bringing insight from other jurisdictions outside of just Revere. So.
Thank you very much. I can see you're O'Donoghue. You're from Ireland?
I am originally Irish.
Yes, I can tell that little accent. I can hear it, so I love it. But thank you for coming. Thank you for waiting. It's been a long meeting for everybody, and I know there's a lot of appointments, and we'll get to you. We will get to you. So thank you for coming, and we're going to vote this out favorably as a whole.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for wanting to serve, and you sound like you'll be perfect for the job, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Greeno Swire.
Thank you, Dora. I really appreciate you waiting today, and I know you're going to be a great asset to our Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
On the appointment of Dora Hallett to the Conservation Committee, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
So ordered. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Back to the regular order of business.
Do you want to just take up the appointments and let? And wait, and since take them all up. Take them all up, since we're.
In a suspension of rules, I would like the clerk to read all the appointments, and we'll take them all at once, if in favor. Thank you.
Calendar item number 12, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Robert F. Upton, Jr. to the Historical Commission.
On the appointment of Bob Upton, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Bob, for serving.
Calendar item number 13, communication from the mayor
Bob, go home.
relative. Communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Anthony Peroni to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
On the appointment of Anthony Peroni, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye. Congratulations, Anthony.
Congrats.
Calendar item number 14, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Brendan O'Brien to the Historical Commission.
Is Brendan here tonight?
There he is.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On the appointment of Brendan O'Brien, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
So ordered. Congratulations.
Calendar item number 15, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Rich Viscay to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
Councilor
Oh.
McKenna.
Rich Viscay? If you want to, we're
On
not
the
asking
appointment
anybody.
of Rich Viscay, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
So ordered.
Congratulations, Rich.
Calendar item number 16, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of L. Baker to the Historical Commission.
On the appointment of L. Baker, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Calendar item number 17, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Joanne McKenna to the Public Art Commission. Councilor McKenna is recused from discussion on this matter.
Challenge that vote.
On the appointment of Joanne McKenna, all in
Present.
favor, all opposed?
Now, I would really like to speak. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Calendar item number 18, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Jeff Perlman to the Historical Commission.
On the appointment of Jeff Perlman, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
So ordered. Congratulations, Mr. Perlman.
Calendar item number 19, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of John Varengia to the Board of Assessors.
Appointment of John Berengia, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Congrats.
Mr. President, can I just say that I've read every single resume of all these appointments, and they're so unbelievably qualified. It's just amazing. So I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to speak tonight because I would have asked you some grueling questions. But thank you for serving. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McKenna. Councilor Hass.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd also like to say that everyone that was appointed is a staple in the city. Thank you for all that you do for the city and its residents. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor.
Calendar item number 25, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the City Council pull from the Appointments Subcommittee the reappointment of Hal Abrams to the Planning Board and move to confirm.
Hal Abrams, can stand up. We're not going to let you speak, but we're gonna approve it tonight. So, Mark.
On the appointment of Hal Abrams, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye. Thank you,
So
Hal.
ordered.
Calendar item number 26, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the City Council pull from the Appointments Subcommittee the reappointment of Megan Simmons Hurling to the Planning Board and move to confirm.
Appointment of Megan Simmons Hurling,
Thank you, Megan.
all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
And lastly, for appointments this evening, calendar item number 27, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the City Council pull from the Appointments Subcommittee the reappointment of Dean Harris to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board and move to confirm.
Thank you, Dean Harris.
Appointment of Dean Harris, all in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
So ordered. Now back to the regular order of business.
Now you guys don't
and I
have to
mean it.
stick around. You can go home.
We're still under this is for the Rule 23 section. The following motion is reported out of committee with a recommendation to be placed on file. Calendar item number 10, motion presented by Councilors Cogliandro, Guarino-Sawaya, McKenna, and Council President Silvestri, that the City Council request the City Solicitor to draft special legislation providing for 4-year terms of office for City Council and School Committee, beginning in the municipal election to take place in 2027.
Councilor Cogliandro.
There's a reason that it never came out of subcommittee, and I would like to place this on file. It's not a good idea.
Placed on file. All in favor, all opposed?
Next up is the Committee of the Whole report.
On the Committee of the Whole report, today we had before us Zach, the Director of Parking, who went over his new parking plan, which is referred to committee. And we also had Tom Sikorsky from the Economic Development, who came before us and discussed the housing plan, and that will be going to zoning.
Calendar item number 20, communication from the mayor's office relative to amendments to Chapter 2.57 of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere.
Is any, oh,
Nope.
yeah,
Hi.
okay. Name and address.
Rose Burns, 281 Broadway, Mayor's Office. So I am here to speak on behalf of the Mayor's Office regarding amendments to Chapter 2.57 of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere, which outlines the duties of the Parks and Recreation Commission. So I bring this before you in response to Councilor Argenzio and Jaramillo's motion that we begin to fill the vacancies of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We have since approved this motion and feel that it is important to take this step forward. However, as you may know, the commission has been inactive for quite some time. When we took a look back at the ordinance, we realized that it was last updated decades ago, and its terms did not completely apply to our expectations of the future commission. So myself and our policy writer and analyst drafted up a new amendment of it that I think you all have in front of you. The changes made include having the Parks and Recreation Director as a non-voting ex officio member. The guidance of this advisory board will be critical, as the input of members of our community will help us to know how to best serve them and their children. A commissioner's role activates them to be communicative with the public and see the impacts they make come to fruition. The most important new aspect we want to emphasize is the commission powers and duties section, which explains that the board will help to make meaningful improvements in their decisions around youth events, youth sports, activities, and open space in the City of Revere. This could include, hypothetically, helping to find funding and grants for park improvements or plan events like the Fall Festival or Trunk or Treat along with the Parks and Recreation Department and the Mayor's Office. I am happy to answer any and all questions you may have on this and want to thank the council again for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Any councilors?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the mayor, and I'd like to thank you, Ms. Burns, for addressing this. It's been an interest of mine for quite a few years. I think the changes you've made are excellent. I'm fully support. I imagine this is going to go to subcommittee. I'd just like a little clarification, like how many times a year it's going to meet, maybe. Maybe we can put a little amendment in at least maybe 6 times a year or
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure if other boards or commissions have the frequency of their meetings written into their ordinances.
Okay.
That's something I would have to look into. It usually does depend on the demand of each board as well as, just what
and it
the
would
board
be
is doing.
an official board where the public can come up and speak and the
Yes.
council. Okay.
Yes, so that's all up to whatever ends
right.
up happening as. the
Thank you
board
very
becomes-
much for all the
yeah.
effort you put into it.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's excellent.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. President.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm so glad this was brought up. I was a member of this board before I was on the city council. I was the chairman for 7 years. And we were very active, and the only thing that we really did was oversee everything up at the stadium. And we had Lee Rizzo was the director at the time, and everything went so well. He brought everything before us, and we made sure that everybody was covered. And I think it's very important that we bring this up forward again and put some good people on there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to our former Vice President for the leeway after he skipped over me. I'm joking. He's not even paying attention. Anyway. Thank you, Rose. I really appreciate this ordinance. I know that the administration had come down to speak against our initial ordinance a few times, and it's nice that something's come of that. Would have loved some additional inclusion, but of course, I think that reforming this particular matter is really good. And I'm glad that, the work that Councilor Argenzio and myself did not go unnoticed, and that the mayor acted on this. With that, I just have some questions related to this, to the commission. I know that there's so much stuff that's going on in terms of boards, and I don't want to add too many people to this particular board, but I know that in the initial motion, I don't have it in front of me, we had filed we tried and aimed to have some sort of equity and have some young people on the board as well.
Right.
I don't know if the mayor would be willing to include that into this composition terms that you have in section.
Right. That could totally
2.57
be added. I think what you may be referring to is that we eliminated the one member of our youth from the original ordinance. And that was only done as an effort to not limit how many members of our youth could be in it. So I think, I don't know how many exact, I think it's 6 or 7 members are going to be on this board. It could be 6 members of our youth. It
So
doesn't.
I appreciate that, and I think that that's important, but as you can understand, and, you know, I grew up being as a youth organizer here in the city.
As did I.
Young people, as you know, often are left out by omission. And if we're not naming the folks who have been historically left out of something that is very relevant to them, then we may be omitting them by accident. Because just like there could be 7 members or 6 members that are youth, there could be 6 members that are not youth. And, you know, I think this is a very, very important piece that for, you know, something as important as the Parks and Recs Commission, we might consider. Again, you know, I think this is going back to committee. I'd love to talk to the mayor a little bit more about maybe making some inclusion, naming some folks who I think would be important for this revamped version. I actually really appreciate your work on this. This looks really good and really at the spirit and the intent of our original ordinance. So that Councilor Argenzio and I proposed. So, Mr. President, back to you. Thank you, Rose. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Counselor. And I believe this is going to public hearing on the 24th of February. Thank you, Rose.
Calendar item number 22, communication from the Chief of Planning and Community Development relative to a zoning ordinance amending the city's accessory dwelling unit regulations.
Order to a public hearing.
Calendar item number 23, communication from the city auditor relative to a loan order for water system improvements in MWRA lead replacement project in the amount of $1,875,000.
Name and address.
Good evening, Richard Viskey, 281 Broadway, CFO. This is a loan program run through the MWRA for us to address lead services throughout the city. It is a request of $1.875 million. It's a program that comes with 0 interest for 10 years, and up to 25% of this loan would be forgivable within the terms of the loan itself. We prepared to speak more on this at the public hearing, but happy to answer any questions in the meantime.
Any questions from the council? Order to a public hearing.
Calendar item number 28, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky that the mayor instruct the Revere Police Department to provide and install pole-mounted solar speed machines on Standish Road near 48 Standish Road for eastbound traffic and on Centennial Ave for westbound traffic near 15 Centennial Ave.
Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, unfortunately, I put this in 2.5 years ago, and it was never taken up by the police department. And I get complaints constantly in Standish Road and Centennial Avenue. I know we're doing traffic calming and with, with Tom in, planning, but, this is ridiculous that we are totally ignored by certain department heads. And I think it's important that we get these machines up there and slow the people down. They have to know how fast they're going. One of these days, some kid's going to get killed, or it's going to be a major accident, and then I'll be able to say, I told you so. I don't want to have to do that. So please pass this and let's get the police chief on the stick. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? All in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 29, motion presented by Councilor Argenzio that the mayor request the DPW and Engineering Department to reconstruct or modify the speed bump recently installed on Mountain Avenue near the intersection of Kilburn Street. There have been numerous complaints that the speed bump is too high and causing damage to vehicles.
Councilor Argenzio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate, we've been doing speed bumps now over the last few years, and I appreciate the effectiveness of them. This one, for some reason, was constructed a little bit too high, and cars and even SUVs are bottoming out. A lot of complaints from the neighborhood. Mountain Avenue certainly needed one, that's for sure. So if they could just modify it a little bit, I think it would go a long way to satisfy the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo what Councilor Argenzio said. I drove over the speed bump, and it's pretty steep when you get to the top, so I agree something needs to be done to rectify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 30, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the city solicitor to draft an ordinance regulating the placement, installation, and removal of satellite dishes.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, once again, this was put in over 2 years ago, and, I get a lot of complaints from people seeing these satellite dishes on the side of houses. They got 9, 10, 12 dishes, and half of them aren't being utilized. Now, I know there's federal law about it, but there is something that we can do internally to control them, to make people take them down when they're through using them, and specifically the landlords, because they're the ones that allowed them to go up in the first place. So, I'm trying to get the city solicitor to do an ordinance to control this. It doesn't help the looks of our city, and I think it's about time we took care of it. So I ask everybody to vote on this and get the city solicitor to work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? All in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 31, motion presented by Councilors McKenna and Argenzio, that the mayor request the police department to display a signboard for at least 7 days prior to the date of a traffic commission public hearing to inform residents of major changes occurring on their street or in their neighborhood. Not everyone reads the local paper and therefore would not be aware of the traffic commission public hearings.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So a couple of weeks ago, we were in the Traffic Commission. They got a change in Wilson Street for one-sided parking, and the signs went up the next day. And not like the motion says, not everybody reads the local paper. So notifying the residents of the changes of their street and their neighborhood are not being communicated. So residents come home and they find these changes. So a signboard from the police would help communicate the changes, and it's only for a week, the changes that are going to be done either in their neighborhood or on the streets. So, because we're not getting communication. I'm not getting communication. They're not getting communication. So there's a real problem in the city with communication. So I'm just asking for a signboard from the Revere Police.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Argenzio.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, I was the chairman of the Traffic Commission for 6 years, and we ran into this a lot. We would make major changes to one-way streets, parking restrictions, overnight parking, and it kind of took the residents by surprise. So I think this is a great motion. Thank you, Councilor McKenna, for including me. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Councilor Greeno-Swire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say this is an amazing motion, and I really appreciate both of you putting this in.
Thank you, Councilor. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 32, motion presented by Councilors Jaramillo and Guarino-Sawaya, that the City Council order to a public hearing an ordinance relative to improving public health and accessibility to healthcare products in the city of Revere.
Councilor Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. First up, can we, I would like to add President Silvestri to the motion as a co-sponsor. I've been talking to some young people in the city about the accessibility of feminine products, and I think mostly everybody can relate with the need to have, for example, toilet paper in the public restrooms. While feminine products is not a thing that I personally use, I can't imagine not living with toilet paper in public restrooms. And so Councilor Guarino Sawaya and now Council President Silvestri and I have been working on this ordinance to expand a program that's already happening in the schools to all public restrooms within the city. With that, I will hand it off to my colleagues who are co-sponsoring this motion to speak on them if they so wish.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Jaramillo. We still have a long way to go with this motion. There's a lot of, it is being already implemented in the schools in Revere, but there are some things that we have to fix, like they're not being replaced on time, things like that. And there's a lot of public money that is available, so we have to look into more grants that are available to help us out with this program. But it's a very, very important program for all our students and residents of the city, or anybody who is going into any public facility in the city of Revere. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Permission to speak from the chair? Thank you. I'll save the majority for what I have to say to the public hearing. But currently, it's a state law in Massachusetts that schools have to have feminine products in the schools. So I believe that expanding that to other public buildings or city buildings is a necessity, and one that I believe my daughters would approve of. So all in favor, all opposed, this will be sent to a public hearing on February 24th.
Aye. Mr. President, could I have a moment of personal privilege?
Councilor, speak your moment.
I'd just like to take a minute and acknowledge the passing of a longtime Revere resident and City of Revere employee, Joan Chait. She passed away last week. She was a dedicated member of the Public Works Department, and she was the head of the Water Sewer Billing Division for a long time. So I'd just like to acknowledge her, maybe have a little moment of silence for her.
Thank you, Councilor. If you'd all join in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor.
Calendar item number 33, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the City Council invite Deborah Nealand of 4 Kids Only to conduct a presentation at the February 3rd City Council meeting relative to the grant 4 Kids Only has received to provide additional services for after-school programs in the City of Revere.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. So everybody drives down Broadway and sees this beautiful building. It says FKO, but no one really knows what's inside or what the people are doing inside. This motion is to bring Deborah Keelan up. She's the executive director of 4 Kids Only in front of the public, and speak about the grant that she just, for after-school programs that she just received from the state. And it's just to give a little insight, because people really don't know that what happens in that building. So she got a grant. She wants to bring it out to the public because there are kids in need, the kids that are abused, homeless kids that would benefit from this grant, and she just wants to put it out in the public so it gets, acknowledged, and maybe some of those kids from the schools could come after school for free and attend her programs. So this is just for the public to be notified. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Christine Robertson, 187 Charger Street.
I'm sorry, ma'am. That would have been at the Rule 34.
Oh, sorry. I just want to let you know that that program is fabulous.
Thank you.
I've had several family members take part in that program. They're wonderful, caring, educating these children. They're wonderful.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Councilor McKenna, any other councilors? All in favor, all opposed? So ordered, and that's the close of business. We'll see you all next week. February 3rd.